You have now tuned into Woman to Woman podcast. That's Woman, the number two Woman podcast, a space where women share their stories, trials, and celebrate triumphs while taking listeners on a journey of faith, inspiration, motivation, love, and hope. At Woman to Woman, our motto is there is therapeutic value in shared stories. I'm your host, Denise Hinkson Lawrence. Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Woman to Woman podcast. So, if this is your first time listening, welcome. I welcome you to our community. I hope you'll find something here that's going to empower and change your life, something that's going to transform you as well. And you will certainly consider being a part of this great community. And if you're not in your regular supporter and listen audience, welcome again. And our hope is to always bring to you what is going to help to change your life, to make you the better version of you. And so that is our aim, to always bring you stories that women will share or things that we will talk about based on what you've requested. And so here we are. On this recording today, we're going to talk about the power of kindness. Especially during times of difficulty. And this was submitted to us by one of our listeners. And the detail of which she says that, there was a time in her life that she was going through difficulty, a lot of difficult situation, and she lists a few of them, which I'm not going to go into detail here. But the concept is that during those time, what made it more difficult for her to endure and to carry the burden or to work with, navigate through it, was the fact that she felt alone. And she went on to say, the alone space was not seeing someone that I can touch or someone that I can call and someone that can listen to or share with me during that time of difficulty. So, you know, um, I'm so glad I'm reading the rest of it here. She has definitely overcome. She's navigated. Thank God she's navigated and did eventually get help from more therapeutic from dealing with the traumas and stuff that she has gone through. And she said, I'm still in the healing process, but now I'm no longer alone. So if it's even the therapist, she no longer feels alone. And so we want to address that, definitely a sensitive matter and something that we can all identify with. I'm sure many of us have gone through, I know I've gone through some difficult times, and I can identify with our audience, with the writer here, is to say basically I've gone through times where I look around and I was like, oh, okay. Okay, so everyone has turned into Casper. Okay, everyone has turned into Casper, the friendly ghost, and has suddenly disappeared. And I've even questioned, and have dialogue with God and said, but I've been there for everyone. Man, I was the this, I was the that, I was the this, the head, the cook, the bottle washer, whatever. I was everything for so many. And yet, still in my time of difficulties, I can identify there were seasons, not all the time. There, most of the times, yes, I did have support. And I thank God for each and every one of them, whichever role they played, however they played it, it meant something to help me to get to where I am. But yes, let's be honest. On this podcast, we talk the truth, okay? Let's be honest. There were times when I felt like, whoa, whoa, like, hello. I mean, even God, I was like, you still there? Sir, excuse me, knock, knock, who's there? No one's answering. So I can certainly identify with that. And that makes it even harder. That's where it comes in. Is you wondering, like, where is kindness? Have people forgotten how to be kind? Have people forgotten how to be sensitive? Have people forgotten how to have empathy or even sympathy? We know there's a difference, yes, but at least I'll take one of the two. Hello, somebody. So I can certainly identify with that, and I'm sure many of you can. And it would be interesting to find out, how you navigated that point. So, if you want to send us a notice to how you navigated and how this topic has really resonated with you, we certainly welcome your input on that. But yeah, it can be difficult, and it's really harder when you look around and there's no one there, especially when you've been there for so many. Whoa. So I know even during this time of the pandemic, I say during this time of the pandemic, I'm wondering, is it still here? Did it leave? Is it ever going to leave? Right? It depends on your perspective and how you see it, right? But, during the pandemic, many of us had been forced into isolation. And when you're forced into isolation, and especially if you're dealing with difficulties, anxiety will be heightened. The sense of anxiety always heightened. And it's easy. It's easy. Let's be real. It's so easy because there's so much uncertainty and fear all around us, and still is, right? It wasn't just because the pandemic hit and all the stuff and lockdown. No, it's been a couple years and it's still here. It still exists. So this sense of uncertainty still exists, especially with all the rising in prices and all that stuff, and wars and rumors of wars and diseases. And from here you get over one, then you're on to the next one. At this point, we don't even know, do we go to a veterinarian or do we go to a regular general doctor? Because most of these things that we're having, it's not the bird flu, it's the chicken this and the monkey this. It's like, where do we go? And it's like one after the other. You get over one, now okay, this is going to be a common cold, this is going to be common flu, this is going to be this is going to be that. And oh, we can't afford gas and we can't afford food, and there's so much uncertainties, and it just appears as this whole place is just filled with this sense of gloom and doom, and it heightens our anxiety. It heightens our anxiety, especially when we're forced in a sense of space of isolation. We're creatures of habit, right? For many of us, we're so used to our routines. We're used to doing this, we're used to doing this. We have a sense and a control of what our day will look like, how it would unfold. And so when something comes in and disrupts that, yeah, it puts you in a different place. And if you look at all the social media and the news and all that, it only takes it up to another level. Okay. If you let all that soak into you, it's going to take you to another level of doom and gloom. And you begin to wonder, is there any sense of happiness going on in this world? Is there a sense of good things happening? And yes, sis, good things are happening, and kindness still exists. Kindness still exists despite how you may see it right now. Kindness still exists. So there's one thing you need to know. See, the power of kindness is definitely still here, right? But kindness is like any action, and it is not passive. And that's what we need to think about, right? So it's not a passive thing. So when I say that, kindness is not passive, right? So if you put ourselves, okay, how many of us have been on either we're either on one end of it, right? So we're either considered the giver of kindness, or we are the receiver, or we could even be the observer, right? So we can be in any of these three categories. You've observed the act of kindness of someone, or you have been the recipient of kindness, or you have been the one who gave kindness, right? So you're the giver. So you're either the giver, the receiver, or the observer. And at the end of the day, because it's like any other action, we're human, right? Habit, we demonstrate certain things, and we have this sense of, when it comes to kindness, it has to take into thought the intent and the delivery. Okay. So it takes into thought the intent and the delivery. And it all depends on how you view this. So kindness is, whether, like I said, whether you're on whichever end, right? It makes you, at the end of the day, this is what's going to happen. It gives you that feeling of feeling good, right? Or maybe a little lighter. It takes off the weight a little bit. So if you're going through something and an act of kindness is done towards you, you're the recipient of it, it does take the edge off a little bit. That's what I'm saying, right? It takes the edge off a little bit. So you feel somewhat lighter. Your situation may not change necessarily, depending on what that difficulty is. But at that moment, you're feeling your mode that you're in, that down feeling, that despair, that whole thing. When that act of kindness is granted and demonstrated onto you, and you're the recipient, no matter what you're going through, it takes the edge off somewhat. So it makes that situation a little bit lighter. It makes your mood a little bit lighter, right? So kindness is an action. It's an action. And it comes from a space of someone having real concept and the sense of empathy. And yeah, there are times when I have questioned, like, oh my God, did you even hear what I just said I'm dealing with? Don't you have any sense of empathy? Like, really? You know, but yeah, there are times when I've really questioned it to myself. So yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't know what else to say. I just gotta be real, because sometimes we have to think outside of ourselves and understand that, while we're going through, someone else is going through something. And, you're going through something and you're wishing and hoping, man, I wish I had someone to go through it with me, right? Whatever that looks like for you. So for me, for someone, it could say, but, you know, um, they're going through it with you because they're checking on you every so often, or they stop by, or they pick up the slack for something, pick up where you're not able to do something. It could be anything, could be any act of kindness in terms of, coming to your home, tending to your kids, tending to your pet, if you're not able to do such and such with whatever difficulty it is that you're going through. It could be praying for you. It could be, putting you on the prayer wall. It could be, coming by, or, sending you little clips and motivational, 2-minute bites and all those different things. Anything, it's any form of act of kindness. It will be received, and it will take the edge off no matter how you look at it. I promise you. Now, if we look at it now from a different perspective as to, the fact that, we all go through different patches and different times in our lives. And sometimes we want to be there as support, right? We want to give that support, but we may not even know how to. I have to put that into consideration as well. So, and I had to do that in my own situations, at least some of them. When I thought about it, I was like, well, Denise, how did you expect them to support you, right? What were they supposed to do? There was a situation I remember, one person was trying to support, but the communication was off. This was years and years ago, and it was a childhood friend I grew up with, from Jamaica, and we were talking, and I shared with them, it's a brother and sister, and I said, okay, and they're like, okay, now we get it, Denise. Okay, so we weren't listening with compassion, and I'm like, no, you weren't, and so we were able to talk about it, and we laugh about it. We, send our memes into each other and whatever, with regards to that, and thank God that's been years ago. And, we've navigated through that. But that's another thing that we want to do is, if you are in a position where you're the one that's going to have to give that support, you're going to have to do that act of kindness. So that's one thing you want to remember, is to, whatever that person is dealing with, right? For someone that's going through that tough time, most of the times they just need someone to listen. They just need someone to listen. And if you suspect that someone is dealing with that situation, and it's kind of a tricky situation, you're not sure how to best, just approach them and let them know that you're there. Just approach them and let them know that you're there. And if there's a need to talk, you need to be able to listen, and listen with compassion. So, avoid expressing judgment for whatever that they're dealing with, or whatever, your opinion of it. Hold that thought back for a minute. Could you please? Right? Because this moment is for them. You want to lend that support. And so it's not the time and space where you're going to uh, come up with this whole thing and express your judgment of the situation concerning how did they get to this point, and if they had done this, and if they had done that, and had they listened to you when you told them. No, they're not asking for that at this time. Your act of kindness, your compassion, your empathy need to be demonstrated in a way where you are avoiding expressing judgment, period. No one has time for that right now. I'm dealing with my situation. I don't need you to judge me right now. And I know you may say, okay, but if I'm a true friend, I got to tell you, but who says that you're right anyway? I mean, sorry. That's your opinion of the situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that your opinion is correct either. It's not fact. There's a difference, right? So at this moment, they're just saying, hey, can you avoid expressing judgment? Can you just listen with compassion? And so that are some of the strategies I would say that you need to do if you're on the opposite side, if you're on the opposite end of it, right? Encourage them to find, effective coping strategies, if you will. You can, depending on the relationship, and how the person will receive that, but you got to be on the lookout for them. That's just bottom line. You have to be on the lookout for them. There's signs that, will show you certain things. Just be on the lookout for them. They're usually early warning signs too, as well, in terms of when you're dealing with someone that's dealing with some form of aspect of mental health. You can tell if it's heading downward, or anything in that nature, but just be there for them. It could be, different types of social interactions, and stuff like that. And just basically just be that other hand, be that other ear, be that other eye, and just be on the lookout for them. So I would say just overall be sensitive to the situation, because you have to also be careful of the rhetoric, right? The rhetoric that oh my goodness, the ones that you will hear all the time. So as a person that's going to support someone, we need to reassure them, definitely 100%. And we need to reassure them realistically, right? But when we make blanket statements that you hear all the time, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. Oh my goodness, it could have been worse. I mean, think about it. You're going with this right now. You're dealing with this, but it could have been worse. It could be worse. Or they'll say something like, you just need to stop thinking that way. When you say stuff like that, no matter how pure you think you may be saying it, for the person on the other end, what that does is then push them into another phase. It pushed them even further, right? And put them now in a space where they're beginning to feel ashamed of expressing their pain. Because you then now took their pain, right? Because remember, pain is pain. Pain is pain. So whether I stepped on your toe or whether my toe was broken, it's pain, right? The level, the intensity of the pain may be different for you because you were able to bear that, right? But for me, it may be like, this is over the top. So because you say statements such as, it could be worse. Like, really? Am I going to think about what could happen worse than this right now that I'm dealing with? This situation that I find myself in? So they're going through and dealing with something, and they then trust you enough to express to you their pain. But when you make blanket statements such as those, as I shared earlier, you're then saying to them, you should feel ashamed of yourself for feeling so much pain for what you're dealing with. That what you're dealing with is not that important, is not that of a big deal. You're making a big thing out of it. You know what that does? Yeah, think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. What you could say instead, I would suggest, is to say this: hey, I hear you. I understand. I might not understand all the way, but I'm sure there must be some help available somewhere. We'll find it together. Stuff like that, or, reassure them of your love for them. Reassure them of your love for them and reassure them that they're not going through it alone. I can see, you get through this, it's challenging right now, this challenging time, but I believe in you and I am here for you and I'm going to go through it with you as much as I can. Something like that would be better than saying, you know, yeah, don't tell me it could be worse. And don't tell me to stop thinking that way. Because you're then saying to me, you should be ashamed of how you're feeling right now. You should be ashamed of how you're handling your situation. You should be ashamed of how you're dealing with your circumstance. Girl, other people out there got it worse than you. Really? Really? Wow. What a wow moment. So we have to think about that, right? Let's think about that deeply and really lead and serve from a space and a place with compassion, because it may be my day today, but possibly you may be on the other end hoping to be the recipient of kindness. And if we can think about that with everything that we're dealing with in life, everything that you're going through, if you can just switch place, switch position, and remember that this too can be your case. This too can be your circumstance. This too could be your trouble. This too can be your experience. This too could be part of your next problem. You're not exempt from this particular pain. You're not exempt from this particular difficulty. You're not exempt from this particular trauma. No, we all may face some aspect of some version, some type, some scale, some 1 level, 2 level, 5 level, whatever. But we may all face and experience something in that nature, right? So just put ourselves in the next person's shoe, if you will, right? It may be a bigger shoe, it may be a tight one. I'm just saying, let's leave from a space and a place with empathy and care and love, and activate that action, right? It's something that has to be um, with intent. It takes thought, it takes intent and delivery to be able to have kindness to someone, especially during times of difficulty. And you'll be so surprised of the power and the effect of it, how it will encourage someone, that no matter what they're dealing with, the fact that they know that you are there, the fact that they can see you, the fact that they can hear you in this way, it gives them that strength. It gives them that drive. I've heard stories many times where people will say they've brought their loved one to the hospitals, or their loved one is in a situation with, dealing with some kind of illness, disease, and something, and they're in the hospital and the doctors have given up, and they go by the bedside and the person can hear, so they're conscious and everything. They'd be like, you've got to fight this. You've got to fight this. I'm here with you. I'm not leaving you here today. I'm staying in the room with you. You can make this, but you've got to fight. You've got to fight. I'm out here praying for you, but you've got to fight. And then miraculously, by the power of God, of course, and everything is ordained and set by him. And our times are also set by him as to when we do exit this earth. But at the same time, we see the motivation, the inspiration, the support that comes from that support, that somehow miraculously, it's like the doctor said, no, it's not going to turn around. That's it. I'm sorry. Enjoy these last moments. And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, what happened? It's a miracle. Whoa, you are really a fighter. You're really a fighter. You really fought for, and you hear those stories all the time, where these patients are now referred to as fighters. Oh, yeah, cancer thought they had her, but she was fighting it. She was fighting cancer. She was fighting it. What is she doing? What is he doing? Right? And how are they doing it? Something has to drive within them, right? And most of the times it comes from our outside support. So I just hope that, I address the topic as best as I can, as it is shared with me. And I hope that we will all take this time, to become either observers or a giver, and why not a recipient, right? A receiver of some form of kind of action, kind action this week coming. Be intentional. As I said, it has to be with intent. It's a thought with intent and delivery. That's what kindness is. It takes thought, intent, and delivery. So my call to action to you this week is, the thought, the intent, and the delivery. Whether an observer, a giver, or recipient, I pray that you will embrace one of those this week coming up for you. And again, thank you so much for sending in your information. I get excited when I get, I have topics I can talk about. I have guests that have scheduled to come on to do interviews and so on and so forth, but that's coming out in our new season that's coming out. We just want to finish out our next season. And wow, I believe this is season 10 we're getting ready to go into. Woo! I can't believe it, how many years it has been now since we have been doing this podcast. And, God has blessed us. We have been rated, on the top 100 chart on Apple quite a lot of times, in some good positions, 13, 10, 12, 34, and even 64. We'll take that. But it gives me so much joy just having what you have written in and just getting a chance to really speak on it. And, I hope I have done that justice. So, again, thank you for sending in your information. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'm glad, definitely, and I'm speaking to her right now as well as the rest of you. I'm glad you have been able to, God has taken you through those journeys and you've been able to navigate, and you're at a better place and space in your life dealing with your difficulties that you've gone through. And I pray that, moving forward, that God will always have someone there for you, with you. But above all, remember, He's always there with you. It's like the footprint in the sand, right? We're wondering where is He, and He's the one that's carrying us. So again, I hope this blessed you all. It was a pleasure, and a pleasure. I'm your host, Denise Hinkson Lawrence. I'm excited about our new episodes that will be coming. I'm super, super excited about our new year, and just hope that you will continue to be a part of our community. And we have come to the end of another recording. Certainly want to thank you for your continued support. Continue to download, to share, and to give us a 5-star rating. All right. Again, thank you for your support. Continue to send us your email at w2wpodcastshow@gmail.com. That's W, the number 2W podcastshow@gmail.com. Follow us on all our social media platforms, on Instagram at W2W Podcast. Okay. And think about sponsoring us as well. Okay. Look at the show notes or go to Patreon and just put in Women to Women Podcast Show, and you'll see us, and you can sponsor us from as little as $5 and on. Continue to be blessed. Have a wonderful week, a wonderful day. And hey, continue to be awesome. All right. Take care now. I'm your host, Denise Hinkson Lawrence. Bye for now.